Hey, 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 welcome back to Drive Time. I am your host, Craig Pasta Jardula, and we do it live, bringing you all the hot takes, headlines, and unfiltered opinions that matter most. Whether you're stuck in traffic, cruising to work, or just chilling at home, we want to hear from you. Today's topics are all about the big stories making waves, but we're not just here to talk at you. We want to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your take on everything from the latest political debates to the everyday challenges we face. Remember, whether you're on the left, the right, or somewhere in between, we welcome all points of view. So grab that hands-free device, dial us up, and let's dive into the conversation. What's on your mind? It's Drive Time. Call in now. I don't know what it is, but every single time I look at a poll, and I'm talking to my friend right now, it's my call-in show, dude. Like, we're having a conversation first thing in the morning about, immigration and the left and, all this shit made up. And like, this is what the show's for. I started a show for two reasons, a morning show for two reasons. Number one, so I can reach out to you, the caller, and talk about things that I have to, I'm not one of those crazy texters. We got to text all day, right? Call into my show. Let's talk it. Let's have a good time. So that's why I started a call-in show. The other reason, Sleepy J, I don't know where you're at, if you're there, because you can't see you on the screen.
I'm there. I'm in the bottom left or right.
There you are, the bottom right. Now you're hanging out alone in the corner. Nobody put Sleepy J in the corner. Well, Pasta just did.
It's only in spotlight view.
The other reason why I started a morning show is so I can wear sunglasses on screen. Let's go Knicks, baby. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for getting up. As we can see, the crowd every single day, every single time we come here. And I got to credit this to one of my producers, co-producers, Gabrielle Freedom. You can see her there. She's got 96 jobs on the weekend. She does amazing work. She's always there. She's just one of those supportive people in life. Everybody needs one, but there's so very few to go around. But thank you so much, and a lot of people, I can't leave all the other small people out there because you're not small in my life. You're big, even though you're just hanging in the chat. Entenman Bill, Naybones, I've been seeing you too as well. Fred Edward, somebody get his ass up, get him here on time. He's probably sleeping. I can't thank you guys enough because this is great. Grab your coffee, kids. Let's go. It's discussion time. It's time to kind of hammer on out and speak about it. Today's co-host on a Wednesday, guess who it is? You got it. Way to go, guys. Way to go, class. Retired Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski will be joining us soon. She usually comes in about 15 minutes. I told people coming around 8:15, 8:20, thinking that I would kind of read the headlines like I do on my other show and then get into it. My other show is on Wednesdays too as well. Drive Time's on WBAI. That's at 4 p.m. Eastern. See, there are two times, according to the ratings companies, that are considered drive time. That 6 to 9 slot in the morning when people are driving to work. That 4 to 7 time, it was maybe 4 to 6 time, where people are driving home from work. And that's considered drive time in the ratings. And that's what this is. I just named the show Drive Time. Then I'm like, all right, well, we're going to be all about drive time. And it has been about reaching out, talking, having words, having conversations. She was on Judge yesterday. She does Judge Knapp on Tuesdays. That was kind of cool because she's been on the Truth Wire with Fee and I a couple times by myself, where Fee was on assignment. But
hey, we got a call.
We got a call. Caller, where are you calling from? What's your name?
I haven't answered it, and it's Fred.
Oh,
Fred.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Pasta. I think we need to talk about your sunglasses. Think you might need a new prescription.
I don't have a prescription.
Yeah. Well, you may need to look into getting one because somehow you missed my very first comment in the chat window. Excuse me, is sleeping in today. Occasionally.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. I see it.
I see it too. What happened is
Gabrielle saw it too.
You beat her in here today. It's always a race between you two. The thing is that your comment was first, and it went up into the queue, and my coffee hadn't kicked in yet, Fred, so I missed it by simply not scrolling. Welcome and good morning, my friend.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm actually technically on my second little thermos of coffee. The first one was cold because I didn't finish yesterday's pot, and I refused to throw it. I refused to waste it.
You know what I do with that stuff? I put it in jars. I put it in the refrigerator, and when I make my cafe Patron for friends, because you know me, I'm a giver, and I love to cook and whatnot. But you could make your own cafe Patron, and that's what I do. I leave my cold coffee because I drink dark, decadent coffee. Like I've been drinking since my friend Miriam Hanan Mimi has got me on the what's it called? It's like this mold-free coffee. Apparently, boys and girls out there, if you're listening, you got to get coffee that doesn't necessarily have mold in it. That's a big problem. Gabrielle will probably tell you that as well. But other than that, I drink Cafe Bustelo because it's like old school. You can get a bag of espresso ground Cafe Bustelo. It's just this. It's called espresso ground because it's very thin. They sell it in Cuba. Guess how much a bag, Fred?
At $2.
40 cents. The last time I was there, it cost me like 40 something odd cents for a bag of coffee. And I would get that black decadent coffee. I'd have a cigar, the little small bananas they have out there, you know, little tiny ones. I don't know. They have them in Hawaii too. It's kind of crazy. Huh?
I see you smoke those too?
Yeah. No, I don't smoke those. That's the breakfast. And I put a little, bit of that Cuban rum.
Are oversized.
What's that?
I said our bananas are oversized. They grow them big for presentation.
Yeah, yeah. Are you saying that they're genetically modified, pal?
I don't know that they're genetically modified, but they're definitely crossbred for the larger bananas. That's why they have to put up cages around them to keep the trees standing up because the bananas are too big.
Ah, I love talking about the bananas and how they really kind of played a part in Guatemala and the nationalizing of the banana. And he even nationalized all the banana. Allende, he only a bit of it, and the Americans still went crazy. Arthur Dulles, who was invested in the United Fruit Company, goes, "You can't let them have their own resources. Go down there, turn them over in the name, get rid of them in the name of communism. Put our own guy in, and that's how it works. And that's why we have such a flow of migration, because we're still doing the same thing, boys and girls. That's what the conversation was about on my phone, was about immigration. Because I don't know, Fred, every single time I look at the polls, it's always in the top three. When I'm talking about polling, when it's a special poll from people like, what is your most important interest when you vote for president? When voting for Congress, what are you thinking about most? Immigration is always in the top three, usually the top two when it comes to the conservatives. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Don't try to tell me it's something different. Like, oh, our Christian values. No. But anyways, bananas.
You can find anything. You can find anything popular in a poll if you do it right. All
if you ask the question,
frame the question
right, is what you're saying.
If you frame the question, I took one statistics class, and basically the teacher said, statistics are bull. You can make them however you want them to come out. However you do the formula is how the poll is going to go in your favor or against you. It's just nonsense. I mean, they had that CNN poll where 95% of MAGA or 100% of MAGA was still behind Trump. I mean, I think it was on CNN. Nonsense. What did they ask? 5 people get the results that they wanted. Anybody else didn't agree. They just left them out of the question pool. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And then I go back again. Yeah. I go back one more time to Smith Modernization Act. They can just say whatever they want to.
Well, that's important, right? They have the rights to now, the Smith months, the act. But here's the thing: there's 2 reasons why our polls are done. Number one, somebody's trying to get information. They really want to get a sense out there of what the population or a certain group is feeling, whatnot. So that's why they do a poll. And a lot of those polls, sometimes they're just grabbing the information to see where it's at. But another reason why they do polls is to put out a narrative, to show you, say, hey, look at this. This is what's important. This is what this poll said when we polled these 6 people, like Fred said, and this is what they said. You should feel that way too. So there's 2 reasons why polls are conducted. One, to get a feel of what's going on. 2, to put a narrative management out there of what they want you to think is going on. So you're right. You know, I guess they still want you to be mad at MAGA people, thinking that they still support this guy. But I got to tell you, I know, Fred, you're not a big basketball guy. We've never talked about basketball together. At the Knicks game, outside the stadium where they have a bunch of TVs and a ton of people watching, they have it set out. They have one in the park, one by the stadium. I mean, there's a bunch of people. Donald Trump got booed in the stadium, outside the stadiums. Something's starting to move really seriously now. These are the things. And he's like, well, it's New York. No, he had a lot of fans in New York, right? There were people in those crowds that were once applauding him, Fred. Now they're booing him.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. The support is really manufactured on social media. It's insane. I barely pay attention to the overall messages that they keep promoting, because I know you got people with under 200 followers on Twitter all of a sudden jumping into my timeline and claiming they were for Trump. They voted for him 5 times. I'm like, who the hell are you? Where did you come from? And they got the account started in 2023, 2021. Some of them even earlier, but I mean, with no posts. I mean, it's insane. And they just keep showing up and showing up. And like, somebody was saying that somebody yesterday posted that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Oh, okay, I am so tired of that. I am so tired of that lie. I said, either you're paid to be stupid or you were born that way. Goodbye.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the importance of traveling, right? Like, if you can travel, get out there and travel. Go see other places for yourself. Don't listen to what the media is telling you. Good morning, socialist hoax. Well, while we're on the subject, too, of about narrative management and polling and all that situation, and people still hanging on, because there are some people still hanging on to Donald Trump. You know, I talked to a smart guy yesterday, and we had this conversation. And once again, his feelings were so much driven, or his beliefs were so much driven by what the mainstream media news was telling you the liberals were saying. And that's why he was feeling a certain way. And then we would say, all right, let's step outside that bubble. Let's pretend for a second that we're not a tribal nation. We're not red versus blue. We're not Democrat versus Republican. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? I was able to compare, Fred, my time and my beliefs and my support for Obama for his support for Donald Trump, trying to say we got to all come to the conclusion that the both of us were played. It's not about Republican, Democrat. It's about the system.
Exactly. And we've known it since when? I'm going to go DNC fraud lawsuit thanks to Nico House, Jared and Elizabeth Beck, proving that Bernie Sanders was cheated.
Yep.
And we never got justice for that.
And then he was caught with the collar on and everything. Goes, what are you talking about? I'm a sadomasochist. I love this stuff. Please, I told Joe Biden to tie me up and whip me. Don't interfere. Just go back and donate $27. By the way, boys and girls, if you want to call into Pasta on drive time, it is 561-247-2721. That's Bernie Sanders Blackjack. 561-247-2721. I had something important to say, something that was going to hit hard, and I forgot right after I got into my Bernie Sanders. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. Get on out there. I'm supposed to be sharing some stuff right now so I can get some people to call this goddamn show. But thank you so much, Fred, for being the first caller. I'm going to move you on expeditiously because we're going to try to get some more callers today. Yesterday was a day we got caught up talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, so we got stuck on a couple callers for quite some time. And some of the advice I got, somebody's like, I was in the queue.
Later, Josh. Later, Pasta.
We love you, Fred. Call back tomorrow. First one in the chat, guys. Come on. Gabriel, you got to get up and run to that board quickly. You got to sprint in here. You can't be letting Fred beat you. 561-247-2721. We'll have our co-host in soon, probably coming in any second. She's probably getting her coffee. Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski will be here shortly. One thing I do want to talk about is that once again, it comes around every so once in a while, there's praise, Sleepy, that's being given to Tucker Carlson. I appreciate you admitting you're wrong. I really fucking do. But how many times does he have to get things wrong to the point we have to go, you don't have to hate on Tucker, right? You don't have to. You can say, all right, I appreciate it. Maybe I listen. But he gets so many things wrong. How many times do we have to listen to the people who get things so wrong, right? I mean,
I'm just sick of listening to people that they get. It's not like they get it wrong, but they only get it right when it's convenient to do so.
Yeah,
that's my biggest problem. Like you could have done this a couple years ago, even years ago, and it would have been a little better. But no. And so it's like they always like defect when it's safe for them to do so and not hurt their bottom line, and it's just gross.
Dude, you put a new thumbnail in there, and I didn't even see that. The thumbnail I put on the Rumble was nothing like that. And I was going to ask Karen for a new picture. Let me just really quickly, guys, if you could do us a favor, what I'm doing now is I'm sharing. Sharing is caring. Get it out there, share it. I got to tell my friend to stop asking me a million questions. Just watch the show. Jeez, everybody's yearning for information that's not out there. They're yearning for new shows. Well, here it is, guys. Here's a show where you get to drive the bus, where you get to talk about the things you want to. All you got to do is call into that number right over here, right there. 561-247-2721. 561-247-2721, and we can talk about it. The thing is right now is that back to Tucker, right? Put somewhere on the screen. We're talking about Tucker because I'm going to hit Karen with that question when we come in here. Tucker is the one who pushed to have J.D. Vance come into play. Now, on the surface, it looks like that our biggest problems right now are these, I'm the peace president, no new wars. But we got to bomb Iran so they will never get a nuclear weapon. And people are looking at that like, wow, you broke the promise. That was the last straw, you fucking asshole. We had some issues with the whole fact that he was still kind of continuing to support Israel and their bombing, up the ante with weaponry and bombs to Gaza that were being used, taxpayer dollar, Lebanon. We're all pissed at that shit. You said you were going to add the Ukraine-Russia war in 24 hours. Still going on. Taxpayer still paying for Ukrainian bombs to fight Russians and drones, right? Okay, pissed off about that. On the home front, you started an immigration force, a force to put immigration to get it under control because, once again, the polls say immigration's out of control, and the conservatives still say, when you look at the polls where they're fishing, where they're trying to get a sense of what's going on, right? Let's bring her on in, Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. Lieutenant, I'm talking about something. I'll just back up a little bit because I'm going to give you the first word. We already had a caller. Welcome back to Drive Time in the Mornings. Guys, the number is getting better every single time in the morning, so let's keep increasing and increasing it every single time. But you guys on YouTube, you're going to lose to the Rumble people. Don't do that. Share that Rumble link out. Unfortunately, my Twitter was stolen, so I have like 100 people, so I can't promote as much as I used to. Going to have my lawyer write a letter. But I digress. People were pissed, Lieutenant, at Donald Trump because he said he was the peace president, and he keeps on funding these wars, whether it be Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, right? The war in Ukraine, I'm going to end in 24 hours. Then you come back on the home front. And we were talking about Tucker Carlson, who kind of apologized for supporting Donald Trump, but he also supported somebody else. Come back to the home front. The immigration force, ICE, people are a little mad. Why? Because even though they're not crazy about immigration or they might think it's an issue, why are we pissing and shitting all over our Constitution? Whatever happened to the First Amendment? Whatever happened to the Fourth Amendment? How can a federal task force, and it's known, this is the president, and if this was Nixon times, over this scandal alone, Donald Trump might be out of office. Yeah. This federal task force was told, hey, you don't have to go get a warrant from a judge to go into somebody's house. You can use one of our administrative warrants. They were told that. We had a whistleblower come to Congress and tell us that, and it's just kind of flossed over. People were pissed off about that. Tucker Carlson, once again, getting a lot of play now, whatnot. He got it wrong. He's gotten many things wrong before this. Why should we listen to Tucker Carlson now, Colonel Karen, when what he's going to do is push J.D. Vance? On the surface, all those things I talked about, people are pissed about. But the greatest sin for some of us, the thing that Donald Trump is doing that is very harmful, is he is ushering in the fourth industrial revolution, the Great Reset, via giving Palantir all these contracts. He's releasing, he's lifted the sanctions off Pegasus, working with his Israeli spy companies. This is the worst thing ever. And now Tucker Carlson's going to come around saying, my bad, let's vote for J.D. Vance. Shouldn't we say, we don't have to bag on Tucker, Karen, but shouldn't we say, hey, man, you should probably sit this one out, Tuck. You got it wrong before. We're not going to support Palantir and J.D. Vance, because that's all J.D. Vance is Peter Thiel's sock puppet. Why should we listen to these assholes?
Oh, yeah, well, that's a great.
Good morning, by the way. I hope you had your coffee.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, no, I mean, actually, what we need to do is listen to everybody who's talking very critically, and like you're doing with Tucker. That's absolutely right. You know, this whole Vance thing. I remember when Vance, before he was a candidate, you know, he wrote his book. Or somebody wrote his book. I think he wrote it, but we're not sure. You know, the book about Hillbilly Elegy that they made a movie out of. And that is right out of the long-term political playbook. You know, you write a book about your life. Trump did this with his Art of the Deal, right? And his other books, he said, oh, I'm not interested in political office, but here's who I am. I want to introduce myself and develop a sense of rapport and popularity amongst the common people. Later to use that to vote. So Peter Thiel's buddy, or sock puppet, if you could be, you know, he has apparently he was a chosen one long before. Now, you know, we think that of the two primary Republican candidates that are being pushed forward, Rubio is a hardcore Zionist and Vance is a light core Zionist. Okay, so the question is, you know, which one's going to be better for Israel? Because honestly, if people are still thinking that you're going to vote your way, you know, out of empire, you're going to vote your way into good government, even locally, it's hard. I don't know how many people vote in local elections. You vote for guys, you say this guy will be good. They get up there and all of a sudden they're not doing what you asked them to do because of powers that are too great for them to resist. But so we've got two, let's say on the Republican side, and I don't even know, I don't follow the Democrat stuff as closely. I don't know who the upcoming, you know, competitive Democratic or independent or,
you know him,
anybody.
Gavin Newsom.
Oh my God, yeah, but I don't.
It's tested in hurricane winds, and all you have to do is go to Polly Martin Cowsey to see it. And AOC.
Oh my God.
Favorite, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that's not good either. But
I
was talking to somebody the other day about that. I said, well, Rubio is Trump humiliates a lot of people in his current cabinet. He's thrown Vance under the bus numerous times. You know, he has his buddies doing the negotiations with Iran. And I mentioned to somebody, I said, I don't know why, you know, he treats Rubio like crap. Also, he gives him all this stuff to do, but he doesn't give him the real stuff, the important State Department stuff. He sends his Witkoff and his son-in-law to go do that. You know, all the negotiations are done by Trump cronies, not Rubio. And the guy said, I forget who I was talking to, and he said, you know what, though, Trump may be, and Israel. When I say Trump, I am talking about Israel in the White House, okay? Because they're inseparable at this point. I mean, that's how he was elected, honestly. But they said maybe Trump is not, he's connected Vance with the negotiations in Iran and not Rubio to preserve Rubio's reputation. When it all goes south, he's going to blame it on Vance. Then we have Rubio, who is more Zionist, who is more he's more of the Israeli puppet. So anyway, that was that guy's perspective. Israel does spend a lot of time picking our candidates. And Vance is probably somebody that has been cultivated along with his Palantir, Peter Thiel roots. Although Alex Karp and Vance, I don't think are particularly connected, but we don't know. So basically, we're not going to be given any good choices unless you go third party or write in Mickey Mouse. You're not going to get we're not going to get good choices. But yeah,
But Karen, I don't mean to
we
interrupt.
shouldn't be backing any of these people that are tainted and proven to be manipulators and future manipulators in chief if they win some convoluted election.
Oh, okay. Sorry to interrupt and try to jump in there, but I'm getting excited. My cup of coffee has kicked in, and it's a New York Knicks coffee cup. Let's go Knicks. Players outside, people outside the stadium, stop beating up the San Antonio Spurs fans. That's wrong. But beside the point, you got to admit, though, at the end of the day, they have put Vance in positions where he has looked like the guy. He's looked like the adult in the room, right? The Iran situation.
Yeah.
You know, hey, and, Trump listened to J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, we probably wouldn't have been involved in this war.
Oh, that's true.
The adult in the room, right? Like at times. His language. They put this guy in a position where J.D. Vance looked like he was the common sense guy, and it seems like they're setting up for the future. But you said something that my business partner, Fiorella Isabel, she would love if you were saying it here, but I haven't asked you the second part of that question is, number one, it seems to me like you're saying, true or false, that we can't vote our way out of a authoritarian system or technocracy. Did you not say that?
Yeah, I'm going to keep saying it too.
Here's part two. What the hell do we do then?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. It's hard to tell Americans because we're a diverse group of people. And a lot of Americans don't even have, you talked about the Constitution and how we've trashed it. We don't even use any of those amendments. The government ignores them, has all kinds of games they play. There's no Fourth Amendment, right? Administrative warrants written by your buddy. That's freaking East Germany Stasi, that we don't, that's not us. We shouldn't have that. But many Americans, and certainly products of our public school system, they're taught, and I'm sure we were taught in school, that we have a constitution and it has 10, the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights. And these things guide how our government operates. And we're taught that's true. So we have to have an awakening, first off, to just what you said, that it's not true. Our government doesn't abide by the Constitution. Okay, that's fundamental. And this is the year we should be loudly talking about that, even though we're not celebrating the 250th year of the Constitution. We are celebrating the 250th year of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which had a bunch of complaints in it, very similar to this. We could make the same complaints. We could write our modern day, and somebody has done that too. I forget who it was. Oh, locally, let me give you an example how that kind of format can be used. There's a movement, very small movement in Western Virginia, and West Virginia has legislatively opened the door for any county in Virginia, not even Western Virginia, any county that wants to join West Virginia. They will legislatively support that. They've already signed the law. So, of course, Virginians are snooty and wealthy, and we don't want to be part of West Virginia. But think about it. One of the selling points is West Virginia was a non-slave state in the Union. Now how West Virginia was allowed to separate off from Virginia constitutionally, little bit, there was some funny business that went on. That's fine. But the idea is this. Anyway, it's not super popular yet. It might be, it might not be, but it is a movement that people want to do. But one of the things that the guy has done, or one of the folks have done, is they developed a Virginia Declaration of Independence. And they did it the same way as our Declaration of Independence, which is listing out all of the abuses of the king. Okay, all of the abuses. And these things are things like, soldiers in your house, warrants written by the king and the king's buddies to go steal all your stuff and kill your kids. It's very much the kinds of complaints that people, and this is Virginia, which is come on, seriously, Virginia is a wealthy state, it's doing okay. I don't think it's number one in anything, but it's not number 50 either. So Virginia is this, and we've got complaints. We, the blessed, doing okay people of Virginia, have many complaints. Our government acts like the Israeli government acts in Gaza, short of murdering all of our kids. But the invasion, the abuse of authority, the firing on civilians, the manipulation of civilians. Okay, And that comes to your ICE question. Why did we have a bad taste in our mouth about ICE? Why did the whole country? It wasn't about immigration per se. We can talk about immigration. We can talk about crime. But what we are not allowed to talk about is how our government is treating us like plebes. They're treating us like serfs. They're saying, oh, we can do whatever we want. We can go into this house and that house. Some buddy of mine wrote a warrant. Yeah, he got the address wrong because we can't read. That's fine. We'll kill them all anyway. And it's going to be just fine because we're the government and you're a servant to the government. And nobody likes that. I don't care what party you are in. Nobody likes that. We are unified in having, becoming filled with rage when our government treats us like that.
Are we unified though, Karen? I don't mean to jump in because I didn't even talk about it. I think, is it called Laney Hall? What's going over there? And is it New Jersey? Correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm saying, chat. I think it's called Laney Hall over in New Jersey. Somebody had talked about it. These ICE detention facilities. Now, some of us, they think we're wearing too much of a tin hat when we're like, oh, they're building these facilities. They're using taxpayer dollars, gutting out these warehouses, paying top dollar, by the way, your tax dollar for these warehouses, 3 times the market price. But, we have potholes and roads. We can drive around them. Come on.
Sure.
How dare you think that our tax dollars should be used for us? The holding, these facilities, these detention facilities are awful. But when I ask you, we all don't like that. I still hear a group of people going, and this is what I mean. It's the same thing I saw on the left and the Democrats, the lack of principles. Hey, man, they're writing up, Biden just wrote an executive order saying that you as a citizen can be called a domestic terrorist. Don't you think that's bad? Oh, no, these people are racist and they're awful. Now over here, it's like, they're putting people without without any due process. They're holding them in these detention facilities. Immigration's a problem. We have to do what's necessary to get it done. It's a lack of principles across the board, Colonel, and it just drives me nuts. So when I asked you a question, the question is, are we really pissed off about that stuff? Because I see a lot of Republicans, like I saw a lot of Democrats, who think that the ends justify the means. Yeah. Please continue.
No, you're right. And there is division when you put the political blanket over top of it. But think about this. You're complaining. I mean, I'm complaining. I'm with you. We should not be building detention centers for anybody. And right now, if they are, and I haven't followed it closely, so you've got ICE detention. Well, the one in Florida, I did see that one. That big
alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah. So I think they stopped doing that or whatever, but I'm not sure. Anyway, huge outcry from the left on that to the president. But you know what it reminds me of? And this is not that long ago, a little bit before COVID times, a little bit before 2019, 2018, 2016, we had huge quote unquote conspiracy theories about FEMA detention camps and military intelligence fusion centers in almost all the states, but not all the states. It was fusion centers regionally. But most states had something connecting them to Department of Homeland Security fusion centers, and they were building, taking over, using warehouses, old military bases, whatever it was, so-called detention centers. And the right, the precursor to Trump's voter machine, and people in rural counties and whatever, all up in arms. They're building detention centers for patriots. Okay, so now they're building detention centers for immigrants that they catch or people that support immigrants. Maybe they want to go after what are the sanctuary city people? Let's go ahead and arrest some sanctuary city politicians and throw them in these. Okay, but what's the consistent? What is common about that? The government wants to imprison us. Okay. And they want us fighting with each other as they do it. They want to secretly spend our money, our tax money, or whatever borrowed money they're borrowing in our name that we have to pay back later if they even pay it back, which they probably have to, and we'll be doing that. So they're using our resources. They're using our ignorance of how government really operates. They're calling it one thing. So half the country says, oh, that's good. Republicans, conservatives say, oh, yeah, we want to imprison these these immigrants that have committed crime or not. Let's just get the immigrants. Let's send them out of here. The Republicans like, okay, build your buildings. And the Democrats then on that point say no. Anyway, the common thing is, the thing that unites us is we don't want our government taking our friends and neighbors and ourselves and our children, sending them to war. And we don't want them putting them in detention centers that they build with our tax money in all 50 states. This has been going on for quite a long time. But yet I remember very clearly when people talked about FEMA concentration camps,
Yeah.
you had to
Yeah.
take off your tinfoil hat because you were clearly a conspiracist. You were a conspiracy theory. Of course, the government's not building FEMA concentration camps. But you know what? Now the government is building. They were building them. And
Well, they had to find a way. They just had to
Yes.
find a different way to do it. And I say this all the time. And in conspiracy theorist hat, I get yelled at. They're not building those detention centers for the immigrant. Never. Well, they are,
Absolutely
but
right.
it doesn't stop with the immigrant. It
No.
ends with you, the American
Well,
citizen, that's opening his mouth and pushing back against his or her government.
That's right. And you know something else? The wall is another example. The so-called wall on the Rio Grande, whatever, this wall. Trump ran on this wall business for quite a long time. I mean, I think that wall was a consistent platform plank of Trump all 3 times that he ran. He was going to build a wall. And that's a long time. That's 12 or 15 years of talking about a wall, right? And it came about even in Republican circles. What's the real purpose of that wall? And even in the conservative circles, they said, you know what? It's probably to keep us in.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to keep the people out, especially when you think about the government's view towards like H-1B and immigrant agriculture labor immigration. You know, the government's all about getting cheap labor, whether it's high-tech labor from India or other countries, or cheap labor from Central and South America to come in and pick crops that we love to have picked for us. That we apparently don't want to do that, you know, whatever. And the government facilitates all kinds of immigration for exploitation, you know. So really, we don't need a wall to keep people out. We need foreign policy that doesn't make people want to leave their own countries. Got you on that one, but that's for sure. We've talked about that before. But really, honestly, isn't it really to keep us constrained? And then if you add on the other layer, the Palantir layer, the AI layer, the flock camera layer, you add all that on. Then you have cars that will shut off if you're driving erratically, cars that will tell you where you're going, not you telling the car where you're going. All that fits into a super state of control for American people. And at that point, it won't matter if you're a Republican, a Democrat, independent, libertarian, Green Party, or communist. It will not matter what you were, because now you are simply a subject. And that's where they're going, and that's how they like it. And we are all united against that. I don't care, really, when you think about it. Nobody is advocating for that amongst the people. Only government advocates for that.
Give us a call. Drive time in the morning. It's obvious that Karen Kwiatkowski, the lieutenant colonel, her coffee has kicked in. The number is 561-247-2721. 561-247-2721. That's Bernie Sanders blackjack. I don't know if you heard that joke. I've been saying it quite a bit, but Bernie Sanders, he used to talk in his first campaign when it was going crazy. My average donation is just $27. Like, you know, he was a man of the person. All these millions of small donations at an average of $27 instead of the big guy who gives writes the check. Like, one of my favorite memes out there is like this whole fake argument between Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. My friend Jamie put it up with the other engineer for the other show. Donald Trump writes Bibi Netanyahu a very stern check. Like, how dare you? He's not mad. You're not cutting off the funding over here. How do people buy this? Listen, you've given some crazy great answers. You really said some stuff. I know I said your coffee kicked in, but I can't imagine a morning show, guys, out there right now where you're going to get all that information in just one small spot. And then you can call in and join the conversation yourself if you want to. That's amazing. But I did ask you a question. You pointed out a lot of problems, but I'm going to go back and ask you again. You said don't vote. We can't vote our way out of this technocracy, this authoritarianism, this East Berlin Gestapo-style tactics, I think, that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. What do we do if we don't vote? Are you saying revolution? Should I grab my pitchfork? What time are we meeting?
Yeah, well, it's a little early to grab a pitchfork because the government has huge power to pick off. They actually, I hate to say this, but all governments, totalitarian governments, and even bad governments like, our current elite rule system, whatever you want to call it, kind of a police militarized, economically ruled elite money machine. I mean, we're just here to make the money they can borrow against and spend, because we're not Americans aren't spending their own money, and localities aren't fixing the potholes. We know that. So where's all the money going? Well, it's going into this other thing. So that's our government. They actually, this form of government, it's kind of imperial. It's kind of, cartel capitalism. But what they really want most is for you to grab your pitchfork and go out into the street, because you're crazy. And we're going to shoot you when you do that. We're going to take you out and make an example out of you. And then all the other people, COVID style, will huddle together and point their finger and like, that guy's crazy. I can't believe he did that. And that's not, so you don't want to do that. But if we look at how, and this isn't, people aren't going to like this answer so much, but if you look at how bad governments, imperial style governments fail, we can watch the Soviet Union. How did the Soviet Union fail? Well, it started failing really, heck, it was failing before World War II, but it went into a wartime economy and they died, millions and millions of people died. And then they began to build back kind of a modern Soviet socialism / communism. I'm not sure what you would call it. They also had an elite cartel capitalistic state, okay? And it was extracting wealth, but it wasn't producing very much. And the people, this is pre-internet, pre-technology. They were industrial, but not really efficiently industrial in most things. But what happened was had a lot of government people using handwritten, using their buddies' warrants to get whatever they want, to take advantage from the state. So you had two or three classes of people, but one main class, other than the ruling class, were all the people who took advantage of the state, who insinuated themselves, who saw the writing on the wall and said, best way for me to do well is to join the party, because it was like the Communist Party. But I don't know how communist it was, but it was the group, right? You join the in crowd that will be part of government and government benefit, be government beneficiary, and you work your way up. And then maybe someday, and this is actually Putin's path, okay? This is Putin's path. Putin came up through the GRU. Putin came up, he's 70 years old. So he was, I guess he was a child when Khrushchev was the president. But anyway, but you say, how do I want to be a successful person in my country? Okay. Well, I got to join the party and get a government job. Okay. That sounds familiar. Isn't that how a lot of people in this country, we need to get with a company that has guaranteed government contracts. Now, if Palantir was actually a hiring engine, which it is not, it hires very few people, but if Palantir was an industrial place that had lots and lots of jobs, would you rather work for Palantir that had, $1 trillion of government contracts, or would you like to work for Palantir's competitor, which just got blacklisted, the other AI company that makes Claude, would you want to work for them? Now, Claude's back in government service, of course, because they have a great product and government aims to control all of the AIs. But I'm just giving an example. So that's what Russian people did. If they wanted to be successful, they worked for the government. If they didn't, they became poor, but they learned how to steal from the government. Okay. They took advantage of anything they could, and they didn't serve. They were unproductive. They produced only for themselves and their community. They shorted the government every way they could. I did my master's thesis on looking at, we heard during the Cold War in Russia that the little private gardens behind everybody's houses were so productive. They were like 10 times more productive than anything. Almost all the food that, certainly the fresh food that was eaten by Soviet Union, was produced in these backyard plots, even though they had massive industrialized agriculture. But what happened, and first off, we have these numbers and exaggerated, but what really happened was you knew the guy who drove the fertilizer truck. So for some reason, he would stop in front of all the houses on his way to the fields, and he would have a fertilizer truck leak where a little pile of fertilizer would be dropped off for the people. So you have guys milking cows and somehow some of that milk would end up into the private sector. So it was all, I'm not saying people didn't take good care of their gardens and work very lazily on the public garden. Yes, of course they did. But they also stole from the government. That's not what we talk about. Okay. But that's what happens when your government is so bad. And then you've got the Solzhenitsyn quote that he says, the government lies to us. We knew the government lied to us. The government knew that we knew we were lying to us. We knew they knew that we were lying to us, and yet we still continued to lie. Okay. That is a description of dysfunction, but that's how human beings as survivors view a situation where they can't vote their way out of it. They had one party to vote for, kind of like we do now. They had one party to vote for. So did they vote? Sure, they voted, but they acted very differently. They acted not to support the government. Now, you say, well, we need government to give us good things. Sure, take all that. But, we need to take, if you're on Social Security, if you're on the dole, take the money. Take it. Take it as long as you can take it, because it's going to run out. It's buying less and less every year. But don't make government stronger, faster, better, smarter. Okay? It's working on that for itself using your money. We don't need to contribute to it. So when they say, oh, the best and the brightest, remember Vietnam? The best and the brightest are running the Pentagon. We should encourage only the dullest and the most non-innovative, idiotic people to go get a government job. Just like I keep my kids out of the military, I would like to keep my kids out of government service as well, if I could. So you have to act in every aspect of your life. If voting is anything, it's 1% of all the things we can do to not support bad government. And guess what? Both the left and the right see bad government. Okay. And if they look at it objectively, we're looking at the same thing. We're saying, oh, it's controlling my freedom. It's violating the Constitution. It's ignoring my rights. It's stealing my money. It's making wars that I don't support, as if I don't matter. And you mentioned Tucker. Tucker did an interview at Huckabee. Did you see that one? Ambassador Huckabee's interview with Tucker?
I did see the clips of it about the whole,
So Tucker said, he asked Huckabee something about, do we have popular rule in this country? And Huckabee said, oh, of course, what the people want, the people get. And then he said, well, the people don't want the war in Gaza. And he goes, well, that's not up for public discussion. Well, people don't want the war with Iran. Well, that's not something we're asking them about, So we're allowed to say what we think, except when it really matters. So if that's how we're treated, come on, you cannot associate. We really have to isolate government and and I say government, that's very broad. Obviously, there are things at the local level that we all pitch in for and we enjoy and benefit, but we shouldn't embrace government. We should never think it's the best and the brightest. And actually, Trump doing a great job of confirming to us that it's not the best and the brightest running our government. It's a clown show. It's a freaking clown show.
I think his name is PJ Rourke, who passed away.
Oh, yes. I love him.
He used to go on Bill Maher, and I remember he had this one saying. He goes, the Republicans always say that government is awful, and they get elected and prove it.
That's right.
I get it. Okay. And when this is a little bit of an ideological discussion, right? Right now, because there's things I want to talk about, because I kind of agree with you, right? Anything that grows too big is awful. But we've heard a lot of this language. You're saying government bad, government bad, government bad. And then we get decisions that are made instead in a corporate boardroom that maybe should be made in a court. Like I make the argument that government is necessary. I'd like to limit it. I believe that once again, we're one species on one planet. We play nicely in the sandbox. I just want to improve the mechanism that allows we, the people, to hire and fire them properly.
Yeah.
Like that system's not in play. Our voting system in here,
no.
Our elections are trash. We have this guy now in California, Xavier Barrera, right, who was the HHS secretary for Biden. His was do a good job doling out the money that we stole from the taxpayers during COVID. Donald Trump signed over the CARES Act to us. We got the money. Now you decide what to do with it. This is his reward for being such a good boy at HHS and doling out that money to all the big pharma fucking goons out there. Yeah. So now he gets to be governor. So I always say that, yes, okay, we have a situation where government's out of control. It's really bad, but we have the corporate section that's controlling our government, and decisions shouldn't be made in a corporate boardroom. They should be made in a courtroom. Yeah. So if we do it right and we have an election system, we already have to fight the propaganda that will come out there. Like people will be, dumbed down and think that this is the right choice to vote for. And that happens. That's a mechanism that's very much in control of the government. Your mainstream media is not an actual media where they're holding the government accountable. They're actually the stenographers for the ruling class. I think they know that, especially the 21 people on YouTube and the 30 people on Rumble. Rumble's beating YouTube watching right now know that. But what do we do? How do we fix that? Because government can be effective, right? It could be.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
in fact, let's say we had a mechanism where we can hire and fire people with our election, with our vote in the education department, we can go out and seek the best educators out there. And
Yeah.
if we had the ability to seek the best educators out there, they would still be government employers, but they are actually working for we
Yeah.
the people.
Well,
Go ahead, Karen.
yeah, I mean, that would be nice if you could do that, but the system itself has to fracture more than it's already fractured. Because look at now you could say Elon Musk is one of those guys. He's one of the elites, and there's no doubt that he is. But even Elon Musk, who went in for this Doge thing to try to look for duplication and waste, and that's really what they were looking at. They weren't looking at criminal stuff. That's there too, but they were looking at duplication and waste and efficiency. And what they found, of course, they found duplication, waste, and efficiency and inefficiencies. But what they also found was that the government and the it's dependent on the industries or whatever that are the beneficiaries and the politicians, that they all joined ranks against the Doge workers. And granted, those were some 18, 19-year-old genius kids or whatever, but these are qualified, these are smart people, right? But smart people can be stonewalled. So if you put smart people in there, and we've had a number of, in all the administrations, we've had really qualified people. It doesn't happen often, where you get a real qualified person to run the agency that they are the expert in. Now, what we're seeing today, of course, is people like, we have the wrestler woman that's running Department of Education. We have a home builder's grandson that's going to be put in charge of DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. He doesn't even have a clearance until they gave him one to put him into this job. So we're not seeing qualified people, but even when we do see qualified people in any administration running an agency, and we see them stonewalled by the corporate governance quasi-elite system that we have. So putting good people in now at this point isn't really going to have an impact, except it might be inspirational, but it's not going to have a huge impact on this. Now, I would say this is what, if we really want to, as a people, fix the problem. If you haven't watched the movie Idiocracy, you need to go download it or watch it on the screen. Idiocracy. That describes the future of America. That describes the present of America. That also, who was running the Idiocracy's government? It wasn't the idiots in the government. It was the company that made the Gatorade. The
Brando. It's got electrolytes.
That's right.
What plants crave.
That's right. So Brando is really the military industrial pharmaceutical AI establishment. Okay, Brando. And of course, Brando can't run a government any better than the idiots that they had running it. And so what we saw was this massive, hilarious dysfunction. But so it's a great movie, supposedly set 500 years into the future, but it isn't. It's set in the today.
It's now.
So yeah.
One of our callers called the Trump the Trump admin the Camacho regime.
Yes, the Camacho. Oh my God! And when you, I mean, it's honestly, it's like Trump watched the movie and said, "I want to do that on the front lawn."
Yeah, yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, but so that's a starting point. We have to have contempt for what our government has evolved into. Then we have to have, what would we like to see? Well, we have a constitution. It's not perfect. It's got a few good things in it. We ought to have that. But we can also look at what other governments do. And I would not look at too many European governments. Those are the ones we came from in our models. I would look at China. I would look at Russia. I would look at some of the Central American and South American countries who have pulled their people out of poverty. You know, Americans, we think we're so rich. On the paper, we look really rich. But, you know, we're the most indebted people on the frickin' planet. Our government's the most indebted government, and our people are the most indebted people. So we're sitting here enjoying life that we can't pay for. So it will pop. All these bubbles will pop. Things will get hard. We need to have in our minds, what do we really want to see? And I think what we want to see is, unfortunately, what Trump tried to promise, but falsely promised. He said, we're going to revitalize the cities and the towns of America, and we're going to make our environment, you know, he was all these good things. We're going to have this fantasy of a strengthened, a peaceful, profitable, you know, life for Americans that have a good future. The opposite. Trump he brought in idiocracy, but he ran on the opposite of idiocracy. But idiocracy won, and that's the elite. So, you know, we have to take kind of a big picture thing. We have to, and if you want something else, and this is very vague and philosophical, but people need to stop being scared out of their minds. You can disagree with the government. You can condemn it. You can be different from your neighbors. The COVID lockdowns, a great exercise in how much will the people self-restrain?
They quarantined
80%.
They quarantined without even putting a tank on the street.
Yes,
My friend says that all the time. We got a caller. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. If you want to call on and be in call, you want to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. She is retired, but she's got cows and coffee, and she's hanging here with us every Wednesdays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. Caller, who are you, and where are you calling from?
Socialist Toke from Orlando.
Oh, first time, right?
Yes, sir.
What you got for us, Socialist
Hey,
Toker?
I wanted to ask, how is China reducing their billionaires? Because their number of billionaires are going down. So if we're talking about a situation where America obviously can't get their stuff together, well, I think a big indicator of that is the way China funds their education. They spend more on their education than we do our military. So if we're just not being realistic, America I'm talking about, or the West, about our past, if we're not being realistic about anything, we're lying about everything, well, then it's no wonder why we can't get the future straight and we can't organize around it, because everybody's clueless.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a big thing. And our billionaires are going up and our poverty is going up. Well, their billionaires are going down and their poverty is going down.
That's right.
I don't think there's a coincidence there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I mean by looking at how we should honestly compare I think Americans will get involved if they look and see how other countries are doing so much better. Well, one of the things that China, and we shouldn't emulate China's history. China has of course, has an ancient history, which
conquered nation.
Yeah. But, if you just think about the 20th century history of China, with Mao, the establishment of communism, the internal war, the war with Japan that they had before and after, World War II, or before World War II, and then during World War II, and the other conflicts, and the poverty, the abject poverty that many, many Chinese people lived in. And some of that may have been exaggeration and some of it may not have been exaggeration. So they have come such a long way. So they actually were kind of, since communists, after Mao, and the costs of Mao, which also had some, unification benefits, a lot of mandates. That was a kind of a totalitarian.
Great gains. And once again, I think when it comes to Stalin, when it comes to Mao, and I'm out, once again, I don't have Mao and Stalin t-shirts, and I'll let you answer the question. This is great that Socialist Toker called in, but great gains and a lot of propaganda against them to make you think that class revolutions are not possible, when I think that in fact they are. Please continue.
Yeah. So, and they have also in China, the same leader now for almost 20 years. He's extended his, Xi's been in charge for quite some time. But China, even though we can say empire, historically an empire, China is not an empire. Okay. They're not out there. They might be a trading empire, but they're certainly not out there putting military bases all over the place. They didn't waste their money on that. They needed defense. And they certainly acquired nuclear weapons to be part of the nuclear community as a deterrent. But they always, put their government resources to say, okay, here's where we were and here's where we want to be. And we want our people to be doing better educated. And what else did China do? They sent their people around the world to be educated, because they said, we're not afraid of outside ideas. Chinese young people have been going to college overseas, not just in the United States, but in Russia, in Europe, everywhere for decades. Okay. And then, did some defect early on? Probably so. Many of them have come back, and China says, you know what? We are welcoming these ideas. So that's a shift from the earlier phases of communism, where it was very much, they didn't want a lot of new ideas from the rest of the world. They wanted to build, the Chinese model, but they have integrated ideas. They have integrated technology. They have developed their own technology. They have focused on education. They have cared about people having homes, to the extent that we hear about ghost cities where the government has constructed vast cities that don't have people in them. I don't know how true that is, but I think there has been a lot of government interest in constructing housing. Can you imagine in this country, what would happen if we even tried to make sure that people had housing? It's an alien concept, really, for the United States government. They really don't care, because it's not necessarily profitable for everybody to have their own small house. It's more profitable for the big companies to be able to purchase houses under duress and rent them out, as a pure profit stream. So anyway, China puts their people first. They think that that's their strength, and they are not afraid of outside ideas. They really aren't. They aren't afraid of outside technology. In fact, they welcomed the technology of the world and said, how can we make this better? And they did it. Now, did the government take a big role in that? Sure. Do they have votes where you can vote for different people? Yeah, you can vote for different people, but there's one party. But how different is that than what we have? We have one party. We have a uniparty. You vote for them, you get exactly the same thing. And that's even worse because in China, the merit thing is how much can we make China better? In our case, it's how much can we make these guys richer? So very different. And also, China does go after billionaires. They have billionaires. They've had them come and go. They have plenty of billionaires.
They hang corrupt bankers.
But they don't. Yes, they don't. You know what?
They kill pedophiles.
Yeah. Well, this is the other thing. And I'm not one. I don't support capital punishment. I don't think the state should be killing people, whether it's in war or in their prisons. But China does not put up with criminal behavior, even if you're rich. Now, I would imagine
a lesson to be learned.
I would imagine there's some rich people who are closely connected throughout history, and they always are there. You're always going to find that. But I think China takes it more seriously, and I think they do. They do send messages. The government sends messages to the elites that this is how far you can go and no further. We don't send that message. We say, how can I be an elite? How can I elect an elite? We're an elite class of rulers, and we're going to extract the wealth from the Americans, just like we've done in our empire. So very different systems. Right. One of them says we stand for freedom, and they don't. And the other one doesn't advocate great freedom, but they actually provide their people more freedom. And I hate to say, apparently safety. Many Americans and others travel to China, and they can't believe how safe it is at any hour of the day. And when those same people from around the world travel to the United States, they are appalled at how scary it can be in major American cities or out in the rural areas at night. So, in
America, you're free to buy shit you can't afford.
There you go. Yep.
Right. We can't even learn from China because we're so lied to here in America.
Yes, that's exactly right. Because we still have the old, well, you know what the U.S. is trying to do? Trump's doing it. Biden did it. It's the same president every time. They are trying to continue the old unipolar military dominance empire paradigm that we have been that we've pretty much have promoted since the end of World War II, when we were last man standing. So we think that's great. That's what makes us wealthy and wise and powerful. And that is failing. It's failing on its own lack of merit. It's failing because our industries, our industrial base is crumbling.
Right.
It's failing because of corruption. But it's failing, but the government is hanging on to it. People in positions of power want to extend that as long as they can. And China wasn't trying to do that. And Russia has also worked really hard, and particularly under Putin, because Putin has been the post-Soviet ruler or influencer for really, over 20 years, but certainly involved in government and thinking about how do we make Russia better, since the Soviet Union model collapsed. It collapsed, and it left them impoverished. It dropped, when the Soviet Union ended, lifespans of men dropped 10 or 12 years. Women's lifespan dropped. They poverty. It was very, bad stuff happened. The Russians got through that, just like the Iranians have gotten through 47 years of global sanctions, and it's made them stronger. I think the Russians got through it and made them stronger. The Chinese got through incredible poverty, and they're stronger. But what have we done? We're buying stuff we can't afford that we don't need, and we think it's great. So are we ready? Right. I'm telling you, you may not be able to vote your way out, and I don't think you can. If it makes you feel better, you should try it. But honestly, we need to figure out how we Americans, and it won't be all of us, can survive the collapse of the American empire. And that is a huge array of choices that you need to make. And some of it goes right down to what's very popular today, which is how do I become financially solvent? How do I become resilient? Do I have friends that will let me sleep on their couch and feed me if I need it? We community is a huge factor in surviving the collapse of an empire. Awareness of connections beyond your country. We have beautiful ability to communicate around the world. We need to learn from that instead of just watching anime videos. We need to actually, why don't we connect with people who can help us?
Why don't we travel? Why don't we get out there? Why don't we see things? But
they
made it impossible to do that, right? They've dumbed us down for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. And by the American empire bristling with wartime activities, both bombing and verbally condemning Europe. Look at what how he's treated Europe. Do you want to go to Europe based on the news you hear and the way Trump badmouths them all the time? No, and we don't have the money anyway.
Right.
But yeah, we're discouraged from opening our minds. We have to do that. We have to fight the trends and really be. And everybody's not going to do this, but if you're able to kind of work the opposite way that everybody else is working, see what's missing, and then explore that to see if that's what you should be doing. We need to do that. There is no happy endings for the end of empire. Okay, so it may be extremely bad for us. It may be worse for us than it was for the Soviet Union in 1989. 1990 when
but we're coming off they're coming off a different system, right? They extended themselves having to fight the Cold War. That's the real reason why they got into the shit.
It's actually not the real reason. That's what Ronald Reagan said.
One of the other reasons is they were managing countries that weren't theirs. They had to manage all these other countries and territories, and that's really fucking hard to do as well.
Yeah, no, they were running an empire. They were running an empire on fumes, and at some point, it creaked to a halt. Just like an engine seizes up in a car if you don't put oil in it. Same thing. And we're doing it. We're doing what they did. We're not learning. Our government's not learning. And just like the oligarchs in the Soviet Union and Western oligarchs as well, extracted everything they could extract at the end, we're in that. We're going to see that. We're going to see that too. So be prepared for it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, it's exactly what they're saying. There's no room to grow, so that's why there's no reason to vote. It's just a hope vote, because if the oligarchs continue to grow in this process, well, then it's a contradiction, because then they'll have to coexist with the world that's growing fast, and that there's no space for them. They've already broken too many laws. The Epstein class has done their thing and all this stuff. So really, it's just one big contradiction. I agree with everything you're saying. It's how do you move forward with this? And said, I'm trying to organize in Orlando, but it's really difficult. I find more people receptive on the job sites than off. When they're so tired, they don't want to hear anything when they're off the job. But when they're on the job, they want to hear something that's going to get them off the job. And it's like, it's it's just what I got. But I'm finding better ways to articulate myself. I call them verbal knockout punches, to where you could just plant a good seed without really saying much and give them something to think about. I'm trying to find better, faster ways to get through to people. And I'm trying to offer books to read and just get them to read the book. Oh my God, they'll do anything except read a book on socialism or geopolitics or anything. And I'm just like, guys, there's people out there that cannot read. There's people that can't read. You're just ignoring something that you could do. And when I started reading, I did a podcast for a little bit, and I couldn't afford it. My editor kept raising her prices, and I got off there pretty quick. But when I started reading, I was like, holy shit, I'm reading at like a 5th, 6th grade level. I can't even really read. And so that was where I really started getting driven. I was like, all right, I'm in. And I started reading, Googling every word. They were Googling it again, reread, re-Google. And eventually you just build yourself up. Yeah. But the amount of work it took for me to do that, and then trying to bridge the gap for other people. I have a job that thankfully I can, talk to you guys on the phone right now. I can have downtime to read books. I could do things like that. But the average person does not. So they're just exhausted. They're alienated. They're exhausted from overwork, and then they go home and they got to raise a family and figure out what's going on there. So that's a big insidious thing going on, is how do we bridge that gap to the
Socialist
community and
Toker?
get them to understand.
Socialist Toker, are you implying that the United States public, and especially the children today, have been dumbed down on by design? Is that what you're saying? That people used to read back in the days, they can't even read nowadays?
Even my gen,
Yeah,
like me included.
I think it's 54% is functionally illiterate, I believe, is what they just said in America, and that's scary.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, I know all kinds of people my age that, yeah, they can read, but you know, even me, like I have to look up words all the damn time. Like we're not taught these things.
I just learned that music shortens your attention span. And think about how many music heads there are that just nonstop listen to music, including myself. So, you know, you fill your head up with lyrics and stuff like that and emotions, and there goes the skills and facts and intellectual abilities.
I don't know. I've started bumping classical music again, and that seems to kind of help me focus, honestly. I'm not even joking.
On the mainstream radios is dumbed down.
In the background,
yeah. It depends on what music. Let's not really ruin everybody's fucking life this morning, guys. We're already getting everyone a lot of bad news.
I can't
even listen to my music.
Everyone needs an escape, right? Like in some people, it's music, but I started with classical, so let me be clear with that. I was a musician in school.
There's nothing wrong with the distraction. There's nothing wrong with anything, but it's just the discipline, and that's the problem. Every distraction becomes an addiction in our society. So there's no discipline. There's no real vision. Hell, even when you get somebody to engage, they don't think there's anything they can do. So there's a secondary line of defense there that you have to figure out how to be like, no, man, actually, this is how history works. It's always been the people, you know, and you just explain it to them without freaking them out. But we're so delicate and sensitive, and we're weak. We're weak. We've been dumbed down.
Yeah. And you know, part of the solution, and we see it all over the country, really, people interested in, I don't know, getting in shape, or people interested in activities that challenge them, whether it's you know, competition of any type, really, but you know, like endurance races or just things like that. That people say, I wonder if I can push myself. And because we are pushed, like you said, with people that are working 2 jobs, trying to raise kids, no money, purchasing power dropping, you know, anxiety. That is a form of toughening also. That toughens you up, but it also beats you down. So when we can assert something, this is normal. I mean, it's always been this way. When you start accomplishing little things, then you can accomplish more things. And it does take discipline. And actually, there's the thing running along the screen says, why should we listen to Tucker? We probably should not listen to Tucker. But what I think the advantage of Tucker is his interviews. And he did an interview, I can't remember when it was in the past year, of a guy who was talking about that kind of, you know, personal discipline. How do you become more productive? Not necessarily at your work, although it would translate to whatever work you do, but also in your life. You know, and I don't know if I mentioned this to Pasta before, but there was a Dave Ramsey show only a couple weeks ago. Dave Ramsey, you know, Dave Ramsey radio. I'm driving around my car. It's the only time I listen to him, driving around my car. So a guy called in, and he was in his 50s. I think he was like 52. And he said, all I do all day is I play this free computer game, but it's not really free. So now I'm broke. From morning till I go to sleep at night, I play this game. I guess he was on disability or something. I don't know how he made money, or maybe he lived off of his spouse. I'm not sure what situation. I think he had a spouse. And he was in debt, and he didn't know how to break his computer game addiction. I think it was one of those that advertises on television. It says there's no fees, free to play, no ads, but there's something else that's going on there, apparently, that they develop addictions. They promote addiction, and they do get money from the person. So he was describing this, and Dave Ramsey, of course, he's kind of hyperactive anyway. And he was like, I can't, you know, I mean, you could tell he was like, I can't believe you're playing a computer game all day long and all night long. It's been going on for many, many months. And the guy didn't feel like he could break the cycle. But the advice was, of course, you need to break the cycle of this habit that you've developed. So if we have habits, whether it's unhealthy habits or lazy mental habits or prejudicial habits, anything that we're doing that is, limiting us, there are things that we can do every single day to develop a little tiny bit more discipline. And I love the reading example, because I don't even read as much as you see all these books. Yeah, I read them, but I haven't read all of them. And guess what? I like to read short little things. I don't like to read long things. This is what the internet and the cell phone has done to me, ruined my brain. And I think done it for a lot of people. But obviously, we are also exposed to many more ideas, which is great. And we can be entertained anywhere we are. And that's also useful. But what's missing maybe is an emphasis on discipline. And I can tell you, the public schools don't teach kids. They are graduating classes in every state. In Virginia is not the bottom of the ladder by any means. They graduate with basically 6th or 7th grade reading level. That's acceptable to graduate. And some of them can't read at all and they still graduate. So our schools are not helping us develop tools that will enable us to go forward and expand and do great things. But we are
Karen, I got to jump in real quick. Because we do have somebody in the queue, I believe.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Good,
no,
good.
it's okay. We're trying to.
No, that's the problem. Like, we don't have a queue monitor right now, so we're gonna have to.
Yeah. What we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure everybody gets a turn to get in here. Whatnot. I got some complaints yesterday that we had some callers that went too long. And don't get me wrong, Socialist Toker, I want you to continue to call in. I love you, man. That was a lot of great stuff to say. But let's let you say your goodbyes and see who's in the queue. If there's somebody in the queue. And if not, we'll continue to talk our
wonderful day.
Yeah, I love you, buddy.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What an amazing caller. And Karen, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm trying to catch the rhythm here of this show. We're feeling it out. I mean, it's been a great show. So many great things to say. That was a great caller from Socialist Toker. And if anybody else wants to call in, 561-247-2721.
Yeah, we're gonna work on we're working on getting a new phone company, but we can't really do that till the end of the week. So
yeah, and we need a new picture from you, Karen, so we can put on the thumbnail. There's only but the pictures that they got up on Google or you were just come on.
I grabbed the one from Twitter. It's a cute picture.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of pictures that I don't. Okay, I'll try to dig something up.
That's it, everybody. If we know a good photographer out there, we need a photo shoot for Karen. She's got to get updated nowadays.
I hate those.
I know you do.
I'll figure out something that was accidentally captured, and it'll work. That's the best I can do right now.
I mean, your Twitter one's pretty good. I use that one too.
Snorky
Good.
He's a professor in, I believe, Indiana, or I think he's Indiana. I think we got a couple. No, he's Iowa. Fred is Indiana. Says, yes, we are getting students who cannot read. This dumbing down of society, right? And this is something that George Carlin said years ago, Colonel, is that, they don't want anybody smart enough sitting around the table who can get a hold and understand that there's a ruling class trying to fuck them over. No, they want people just smart enough to press the buttons and the brooms to get the shit done.
Idiocracy. It's the theme of Idiocracy. Too. It's great. I mean, the inability to ask a question or understand the answer. So you're basically just communicating with hand signals and very few words. And again, we can do better. We're human beings. We can do a lot better than what we're doing. And it does start with what each person can do in their own lives. I mean, we have so many people, and COVID helped with this, or harmed with this, or whatever you want to call it, the COVID lockdowns, where people refused to talk to each other because the issues that would come up were so harmful to talk about.
We've got a Snorky. Mute your YouTube, Snorky.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but I mean,
am I on now?
Hold on a second, Snorky. Let the Colonel finish her thoughts, because she's talking about. And then we're going to bring you right in. Snorky's here from Iowa, the professor. But you were saying something about COVID. What happened?
Well, how it basically took off the list of things you can talk about freely and openly with your closest people, your family members and your friends. Now there's whole areas that were off limit. You can talk, and this is an old concept, don't talk about politics or religion. But now we can't even talk about government policy. We can't talk about the war. Sometimes we can't even talk about genocide in an extended, larger group. And that is by design. That's by design.
It's made Thanksgivings really boring and fucked up. That's why the football ratings are through the roof. Snorky, the professor from Iowa, what do you got? You're on Drive Time with Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski this morning.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, getting at least 2 students a year that couldn't read, and a lot of states are getting rid of math requirements. And this isn't just math requirements for any major, but technical majors. And it just can't be. On the other side, I see a major danger with us automatically sharing information that we have with other governments. And the proliferation of being able to weaponize any new invention is horrible. And one of the major fears you always have is anything you make can be weaponized. And we have people that are worried about data centers and other things. And I'm not saying that they're good, but we are right at the point where we're going to share technologies that could be, and we're used to weapons like nuclear that could take out a city or a portion of a state. And we've got things that are coming online that really could be used as theater effect weapons, where it's not just hitting a city, but can go through and just wipe out whole portions of states or everything in view of the moon. And it's a major concern for me. And we start thinking, oh, well, we just have that. And we're looking at some of these technologies. Well, Japan is almost at that point. India is almost at that point. And other countries are talking about putting peaceful things into space. And the horrible thing is almost everything peaceful. I have to remember Nobel Prize came about because he wanted to be able to blast stumps out of the ground, and it ended up being used for war, dynamite. And so these other technologies are, like I said, it's genies in a bottle, and you just don't know what the genies are going to do, and you don't know who's going to steal the genie and make it do bad things. Hope I didn't ruin everybody's day.
It's not.
That's a downer, and it's true. It's all true. I didn't realize they weren't pushing math either, because AI. I mean, you could probably use AI and get a college degree with it. Just have it produce all of your work and answer all of the questions. And we're being encouraged on the. I mean, I see it all the time. Everybody who uses the internet, the first thing that comes up now is an AI summary of whatever it is you wanted to know, and it's helpfully bold-faced where the things you need to look at. So, we're not thinking, we're not evaluating, we're trusting something we should not be trusting, which is this larger AI. And it's weird to me, not weird, but it confirms what we should be concerned about. That the government, our government, but other governments as well, are very deeply involved in controlling AI, holding the keys to it. We have ideas like what is the company that makes Claude? They said we have open source software for all of our stuff, but the government doesn't want
Anthropic.
Anthropic, yeah. So Anthropic is, they said one of our things is that anybody can look at our code and we can, we welcome that. Just like kind of like Linux, as an operating system, and other places where you have open source code. But the government is not interested in that. That's not particularly why they tried to blackball Anthropic, but it's part of it. And they want code. They want the stuff that they can use to control, manipulate, maintain power, conduct their wars with or without drafts. And also what worries me, and like you were saying about the weapons that can do this mass destruction, these weapons, I mean, the potential for false flags or the potential for destruction done in your country by your own country's controllers, I don't even want to call it government, but the controllers, in order to precipitate control, enhanced control, support for a war, another mental, intellectual lockdown like we saw with COVID, where nobody could ask a question about anything. Now, of course, years later, people are asking more questions and people are looking at data. But hey, if we don't do math and we can't read, what good is any of the historical data? Because we don't understand it anyway.
Use AI to tell us what we need
Yes.
to know about COVID, Colonel.
Yes, there you go. AI will tell us what we need to know. But it's an ugly future. And I personally, I think we don't want to, most of us don't really want to be a part of that. And just identifying, do we want to be a part of this or do we not? This is something we all should be thinking about. And I think the human spirit is the enemy of this kind of AI totalitarian war system that extracts wealth into the hands of the few at the top who then just maintain control over that system. I think this is a war against the human spirit. So anything we can do to
Can I ask you guys a question? And I'm going to ask to both Snorky and the Colonel. And you know what I'm saying? And, not for nothing. I just want to say, Karen, you're sounding like a Marxist every single day.
Okay, well, I'm not.
You are. You insisted. Marx said that if it's so bad, if government is so bad, you just got to blow it up. And every single message you've given us today is like, we need to blow this fucker up. So even though you're not, you're sounding like it. Snorky, you're a professor. Colonel, you're an educator or just a badass, whatever the case may be. My question to you is, and Snork, I'm going to let you go first since you called on in. Is there any situation in which we can use AI for good? You in your line of work as a professor, is there an area in which you would encourage maybe using AI as a tool?
Yes, I made one in 1992 that saved an average of 10 lives a day. That one I considered very good. And
what did you say in 1992?
I made an AI. We didn't call it an AI back then. And we didn't know the term. We just we called it a mathematical model to study what was changing with our product, and if our product failed, people died. So we had a log of when our product hit the thing, how long it could last, and then how many people died from failure of that product. So we were able to start seeing months after we got this in place a huge drop in the number of deaths. So like I said, it was a major change in the factory. It made a lot of people hate us, but we used to have twice as many people correcting problems as we did making the part, and it would take hours to retune our equipment and stuff if we found we had a problem. And then we went from that to suddenly going days without having a problem. And then we got to the point where the AI could actually say we could expect the machines to start failing at 3 o'clock tomorrow. And we could actually schedule maintenance guys to go out during lunch times or shift changes to go out and make the repairs.
Snorky's going to get a call from the Pentagon getting offered a job for what he's saying here on drive time in the morning, Snorky. So
that's
just
fantastic.
be prepared to get a call from the Pentagon.
Just as an aside, artificial intelligence, like research and programming, that stuff's been around since like the late 50s, early 60s. So this is not anything new. It's just it's more mainstream now.
Our major change of it was before then we used what was called sampling, where we would analyze what was happening in a factory. We'd have a very small sample and understand. We were able to go in and hook instrumentation up to our company. So we were like the first that did that. And we were able to analyze all the variables right away of what was happening. and where our maintenance staff was just hounded to go out and repair machines, and within months, instead of that, the production people would call me up, or I would have the maintenance people and the production people meet in my office and say, could you run an analysis? And then, like I said, what our biggest problem was, we ended up laying off 3/4 of our people weren't needed anymore, because we went from this huge rate of errors, like several errors per board, to 1 out of every 208,000. We just let go our entire repair staff and put an X on one that was bad, and we hit it with a hammer at the end of the line.
Were you able to swing and hire people now that could go out and sell the product more efficiently, or something else? In other words, was there compensation on another end? So maybe you fire off all the people that used to do the repairs because you don't need it anymore because the AI has helped. But now you could spend money in a different area and hire people for other things. Did that help? And did you see that, or did you not see that?
No. After about a year, the company was purchased by a holding company that was pretty much run by a senator, and they made the wonderful decision to move it to Mexico.
Of course.
God, yeah.
Of course. Every story has a nice ending. Karen, do you want to jump in on that? And after Karen says that, we're going to take another caller. Snorky, thank you so much for calling on in. You make the show great. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great experience and story for people to understand. And AI is as good as how we choose to use it and how we inform it. The data that's in it, and that's really the problem. We are developing AI for wartime use rather than
for track and trace of our citizens in war instead of using it for good.
The government probably should not be involved. We should probably accept that government might be inefficient and maybe should be the most inefficient part of all of our government, but we say, oh, government should be more efficient and more powerful, and it's using AI tools to do that, and that actually doesn't work for the people. But it's beautiful.
Hey, where are you calling from? What's your name?
This is David from Melbourne, Florida.
What's up, David? Did you finish your thought, Colonel? Or? Sorry, hold on one second, David. Yes. You all right? So you're on with Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. This is Drive Time, David. Go right into it.
Hey, Carol. So when I was at work with NASA headquarters in the late 90s, I was subjected to a lot of really weird stuff, like proposals for harmonic mind control and destabilization systems. Did you ever encounter anything weird like that in your experiences?
No, I didn't, because that's not the kind of thing that I worked in. But I will say this is, and it's not weird. Today, it would not be weird at all. Everybody say, well, that's not weird. But when I worked at NSA, I ended up, my final time there was as a speechwriter for the director of NSA, the National Security Agency. And of course, this was late 90s. And the big concern that NSA had was there wasn't enough data storage for everything. So they didn't really acknowledge the benefit of compression, new technologies, or anything like that. And they said, data is going to be the big problem, so we have to do this. And data was a problem because NSA, even then in the 90s, of course, was doing what? Collecting massive, massive troves of data. And one of the things that they are also working on that I was shocked by, which today, of course, no one would be shocked by, is that the NSA had developed backdoors into all the big commercial operating systems and software. And that was a big target. And we had contracts and deals going with Bill Gates and others. Apple was at that time more resistant. And it's funny because the Navy liked Apple computers in part because they figured they had more autonomy, I think, in performance. But the mandate for all of the rest of the military, eventually, I think the Navy too, at that time, it evolved into all Microsoft products. And Microsoft had a known backdoor and many flaws, which, of course, today is common knowledge, not even an issue. But I remember being surprised by that. I shouldn't have been. but it was one of those things that you put it, you once you learn it, you can't, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, what this is what our government is interested in, and it is data back then, before AI and everything else, but and not just global data on Americans. So this obsession for tracking people and predicting their movements and manipulating them hasn't done nothing but grown in the last 30 years, and it's been enhanced by many of the advances that we have. So
yeah, well, we got to admit really quickly on that note. On that note, Karen, the government is a paranoid government, right? So
I think all governments tend to be a little paranoid, but yes, ours is exceptionally paranoid under Trump in particular.
Well, I mean, it was paranoid under the last guy too, as well. It's like they're always. I always say the greatest threat to the empire is its own citizens. So they got to track and trace us wherever we go.
Right.
David, you got anything else?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, on that note, because at the time I was contracting directly for NASA headquarters education division. And like you said, you know, the National Science Foundation, the NSA, they were all heavily interested in that stuff. So my company, when I went to first work for it, one of the first things I learned, Allied Technology Group Incorporated out of Atlanta, Maryland, is they had a contract with not only NASA, but the DOD, DOJ, and they were doing all the cache tracking for anyone who visited like the White House, NSA, NSF, CIA, FBI, or other security related web pages so they could track systems. In fact, they boasted catching the little 2 Japanese hackers who got the White House and FBI homepages and drew a bunch of penises on them and stuff in the late 90s. That was one of the funnier ones that happened. But yeah, we were tracking all that stuff way back then to make sure that we could create these giant data sheets and data models. And it was all done with U.S. Dual Israeli contracts from what I saw. That was the 11 million that was coming out of my cubicle. And then
we're getting flagged tomorrow, by the way. This show is getting flagged. It's gonna be like, we're done. The Zionists know we're here. That's it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, like the last time I talked about this stuff on an open forum, I got hacked the next morning and from an SUNY. Yeah, it was bad. But they don't like it. They don't like it when their ex-contractors talk, because one of the things I learned is not a lot of NASA people end up speaking out. They either disappear or they take the money, which is what I did for a while. But yeah, they were using taxpayer dollars for this in the late 90s, like right after the Clintons rolled back NAFTA. All of a sudden we had this, because I'm from DC, I grew up there. That's how I ended up contracting. But we had this massive flood of Zionists and ex-Syrian Afghan princes all of a sudden showing up to, DC, able to go and hang out at Congress all day and lobby Congress people. So, I mean, it was like a flood. So I think that's when they really took the mask off and just started watching everyone and was just counting on the fact that, they had these plans to dumb people down, make them more apathetic, and then roll out all these wars. So, our best and brightest would constantly be taken out and driven to anger and wartime stuff. But it was just ridiculous to see it. So it's nice to see you guys talking about it.
It's nice to have you calling in and getting the show flagged. Thanks a lot, Dave. We love you. We appreciate
Good work. Good work.
Yeah. He gave us continue to call in. I'm just joking. Who cares at this point? My channel is monetized, but my main channel, the Truth Wire, which was the Convo Couch, has been demonetized. So we've been talking about stuff that we shouldn't have been talking about for quite some time. So you're just building upon that stuff. We appreciate that, because that's what the show is all about, is not to be propagandized, not to just go with the narrative managements on the mainstream media. And there's a lot of them in the independent space. Today, I started off the show saying, why are we listening to Tucker when he's gotten so many fucking things wrong? And now he's going to be pushing Peter Thiel's sock puppet, J.D. Vance, down our throat. So I guess you got to be careful what you wish for when you open up that can of worms. Here comes Dave with his own beautiful can of worms from his own experience. We appreciate you calling on in, brother. You got anything else?
You guys were talking about AI. That's actually why I originally called out, and I just got lost in the sauce like Jimmy Dore. But so for the last 18 months, Google's AI has been hallucinating. This is something you can look up. This is why they're rolling out the Gemini AI and trying to tag it out. But Google is connected to so many usernames and stuff that, really absolutely at this point, if anybody realized how bad the system was crashing, they would automatically disconnect from it. I thought it was just like hacked or acting up, but it also explains the errors in the YouTube algorithms, which are so unpredictable, because Google's AI, admitted by Gemini, is actually hallucinating and making stuff up and imagining shit. Like, it's crazy.
You mean it didn't just take the fucking mushrooms I sent it? It's really actually.
I've noticed the last 3 months, like the little AI results on top of Google searches, they're like half the time the stuff I'm looking up, they're just straight up wrong.
Yeah.
Like blatantly wrong, or it'll be like about a completely different topic or, whatever. Yeah. So they definitely, there's some fuckery afoot there.
Well, when it originally became an issue, I thought it was a hack or a worm because you started getting search results, and this became a big deal where you could like look up how to work 8 days a week, or it was telling people that cockroaches are named that way because they come out of hoo-has. Yeah, really, really weird stuff. But yeah, and this is stuff you can still confirm. And I thought it was just a worm, and then I looked it up, and it turns out Google's AI is actively hallucinating. So every time you put something else into it, it's going to take it and make it a freaking drug trip. Like, yeah. I knew about Skynet, but not Sky High Net. Now I'm scared.
I like that.
Yeah. I asked it about the USS Liberty the other day, and it says, you want to listen to some Grateful Dead and eat some Cherry Garcia, man? That was the answer.
Well, this is a testament, really. It's a testament to the incompetence of not just our elected leaders in our government, but their elite class of people. This kind of unrelated, but I was watching Ivanka Trump give an interview. Remember her interview from last
week? The Albanian interview?
Oh, God.
Yeah. She was talking about how they found this Albanian island that they wanted to
talk about hallucination, Colonel Karen.
Yeah. No, seriously. Ivanka Trump she's describing this. She has no sense that how the whole world is watching and understanding what she's saying. Totally out of touch with reality. And here's a person who is a sophisticated, educated person, connected with the global elite, connected with the U.S. elite, totally part of it, has no idea that what she is saying is being interpreted a totally different way. So it's not just the AI that's hallucinating, it's the freaking elite that is hallucinating as well. And I think the AI is reflecting that to some extent, because this is their tool for the most part. I mean, I don't discount all the positive uses of AI, but what you see the government using it for is not positive. They're not trying to be more cost effective and do the right thing. They're not trying to do that.
And now we've broke it live on Drive Time that your AI is in the middle of a mushroom trip, ladies and gentlemen. Now we broke it live on Drive Time in the morning. Dave, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate you making this show awesome right out of the gate. I mean, we got 29 people on YouTube. We got 30 people on Rumble. We're growing the show every day, every single week, and it's people like you who are really helping and making this happen. Thank you so much for calling in, brother.
Thanks for giving me a voice.
Always here at Drive Time, where we get ourselves in trouble. I mean, we got some. Karen, you got to admit, the last two callers, right?
Yeah.
We got the last three callers. I'll say the last four callers. I'll include you, Fred. I love you. But the callers on the show, the people who've been calling in, especially today. I mean, come on, where are you getting this type of level of? I just realized again the intelligence level of my audience. It supersedes me sometimes, and I gotta learn and listen to them, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
We gotta have faith in the people, man. It's not the people that are the problem. We need to keep that in mind.
That's right. I agree.
Yeah. You were gonna say something, Karen, too.
No. I mean, it's great. I think these voices from across the country. These are just the small percentage that have a time, coincidence, a moment they want to say something. The ideas that are being imparted, the distrust of these systems that are trying to control us, it is everywhere. Trust me, it is everywhere. It transcends party affiliation and political perspective. It is out there. And so really, we should encourage it everywhere we find it.
Yeah. I think we're doing a great job of identifying the problems and different problems we might not have seen. And, collectively we're doing that. But what we haven't identified yet, and I think that's going to be a process of the show, is identifying the actual solutions. Like we're teasing with it, right? It's like, do we get the pitchforks? Maybe it's not time for the pitchforks yet. Okay, what are we doing? I think the first part of the solution is identifying what the problem is. And I think we've identified it. And it's not just this blanket statement, it's government, right? It goes deeper than that. It goes deeper than the ideologies we talked about. We've talked about the Soviet Union and communism. We've talked about how China's government, the United States government, the fascism, the technocrats. So I think we're kind of knocking on the door, but pretty soon we're going to walk through it and saying, okay, these are the solutions. We have established that even though you're not a Marxist, you kind of got a Marxist theory about what you've been educated to is we got to blow it up. But how do you blow it up? Right?
Let me. I have some homework for the community here, and a partial solution. Go to your neighbor, find out their damn name, have a meal with them, learn who the hell your neighbors are. Well, I know who all my neighbors are. We talk, and that's something lacking. And like when I was in California, that wasn't a thing. You didn't know your fucking neighbor's name.
Yeah.
So the homework for you people: learn your neighbor's name, give them your name, have a conversation.
Stanhope, right?
It's summer. If you're barbecuing, take some food over to your neighbor, man. Like, break the ice.
He's going to bring them chicken and they're going to be vegans, right?
I'm just saying, man, there's ways we need to start growing our communities, and that's where this all has to start.
Karen, you down for that? You got cows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see that as part of what you want a solution. It's too early for pitchforks, but it's not too early to learn how to use a pitchfork. It's not too early to learn how to use our tools. It's not too early to learn how to talk to our neighbors, know what they care about, let them know what we care about, help them out. They're going to need help. We're going to need help. So these are the things we can do right now. And also, this idea of discipline. I'm not, that's a challenge for me, discipline. But you know what? You can do anything for 15 minutes. And I think we need to look at our daily schedule and see what we need to spend maybe 15 minutes on. And it could be spiritual enhancement. It could be reflection. It could be learning a skill. It could be looking at our pitchfork and thinking, you know what, maybe I need to sharpen the tines, and maybe I need to oil the handle. And actually, can I even work? Do I know how to use a pitchfork? And I'm speaking symbolically there. There are going to be many tools that we all have to use. Some of them are with other people, some are ourselves. And how do we become useful to our community? I mean, bringing them some food is a great thing. Knowing their names, knowing their kids. Did they graduate high school? What are they? Knowing these kinds of things are all tools that strengthen community and strengthen at the lowest level, family and on up. And at some point we become impossible to resist, and our government will obey us. There's a great, I know we're running out of time here, but at least I am, but there's a great little image, and I'm going to send it to you, Pasta, of a group of people. There's a cliff. And on the cliff, there is a board. Half the board's on the cliff, half is hanging over the cliff. And there's a politician on a podium standing at the end of the board. Okay. And he's out above the cliff. And the people are all standing on the board on the ground. And then the last guy at the back has turned around and he's walking away. Okay. So when enough people walk away from that politician either figures it out and follows us, or the politician goes over the cliff. And politicians know this better than anybody. They must please the people ultimately. So we need to become powerful. We need to become influential, capable, resilient, strong, and smart. We are human beings, we're blessed with these huge brains, that we walk around with, and we should use them every once in a while. We should try to exercise them and challenge.
You got the rallying cry. You gave it to us, Karen. 15 minutes. You can do anything for 15 minutes. What are you going to do with it? Right? What are you going to do to help? I don't want to call it the people's revolution, or what are you going to do to help humanity? What are you going to help?
Yeah.
You can learn how to use that pitchfork, right? 15 minutes. What are you going to do with it? That's the question. What can you do? I think it's amazing. Like whether it's read, like our socialist Toker guy called in and talked about, you know what I'm saying? You got 15 minutes a day. You can do anything for 15 minutes. What are you going to do with it? That's the question right here. I'm going to do is use my 15 minutes to make and eat spaghetti carbonara. That's what I'm going to do.
That sounds good.
I know it's almost 10 till. Do you have to run off to another show or?
At 10 o'clock, I have to do something. It's actually it's something on X, an X space, which I've listened.
Mario on the Wall. Are you going on with Mario on the Wall?
No, not him this time. This is you know who it
Solomon?
is? No, it's oh my gosh, I can't think of the guy's name. A Russian guy who was born in the United States. His father, Dmitry. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I used to read his father's work in the American papers, but his son, who is younger, much younger, he lives in Russia and does media there. So I guess he's doing a X Spaces, and I'm gonna sit on that and see.
I forgot Dimitri's last name. He's the guy who goes on Crosstalk a lot.
Yes, he's great. And his father, Dmitry Symes Jr. is the guy, but Dmitry Symes Sr. was, I used to read him when I was in a younger person, you know, because he would have op-eds relating to foreign affairs in Russia in particular in the major papers. That was back when the major papers ran op-eds that anybody wanted to read. Yeah. Now, I don't think anybody even reads papers. I don't know.
I'm going to give you one last closing question. So we have about 5-6 minutes before we get you on here. Putin's got to be facing a problem. The Russian Federation's got to be facing a problem. The people in Russia and Moscow, right? And don't get me wrong, I think they felt like the Russian Federation dragged their feet getting involved in the Donbass. I mean, those were ethnic-speaking Russians that were getting bombed by U.S. NATO weapons from a bunch of Nazis. You can call them whatever you want. They're Banderites. They, you know, Stefan Bandera. There's statues of the guy. There's streets over there. You can look up who he is. You know, half the Ukrainians fought with the Germans during World War II. The other half fought with the Russians. So, I mean, you've always had that there. The United States got themselves involved. People felt that Putin was dragging his feet. He did try, Minsk 1, Minsk 2, to come up with a solution. I believe, you know, when people push out that narrative, and you hear it from mostly the Democrats, the establishment Democrats, Vladimir Putin wants to recreate the Soviet Union. No, he doesn't. He understands that he doesn't want to fucking manage those countries. And in fact, he wanted the Donbass to be part of Ukraine because he wanted that voting bloc there to keep Ukraine at somewhat of a balanced position. When you separate it the way he did now they're going to be all fucking in for the Banderites and the EU governments. But at the end of the day, even though he dragged his foot, he got involved. Now they feel like he might be dragging his feet on the battlefield and it's taking too long. There are people in Russia who are saying the Great Patriotic War was shorter, and this war is lasting longer than the Great Patriotic War. What could he do at this point from a military mindset, Colonel? Because for me, I think, and I've said this before, and I think Mark Sloboda, who also goes on Crosstalk a lot, he does Bulwark, Peter Lavelle, he said before, you know what I'm saying, unless you take Kiev, you're not going to change anything. You're going to still have those Banderites on your border, sending drones into your country. So, but if you do take Kiev, now you're talking about a whole nother guerrilla warfare where you're going to have all these Banderites and, you know, tucked into all these buildings with night snipering, and you might not have any you know, calmness whatsoever. You might be in a civil war kind of mentality. What could Putin do at this point, and your personal thoughts, Karen?
Yeah, from a military perspective, I think you're right. I mean, and he does not want to, Kiev is a very important city in Russian history. Remember that long, there's another Tucker thing. Tucker did that long interview a couple years ago with Putin, and Putin gave a 35-minute, you know, history lesson. Americans are like, what the heck? We don't care about this. But what he's saying and why that was important is he doesn't want to destroy an important Russian city and a Russian Orthodox church, you know, the whole thing, that the kind of heritage that Russians actually value. So his hands are tied. And also we are continuing, you know, the U.S. is continuing to flow weapons and guidance and intelligence and doing all kinds of bad things in support of Ukraine to allow them to harm Russia and to stimulate this popular movement that says wipe them out. And Trump, and here you have Putin. The Europeans are saying, oh, Putin wants to invade. No, he doesn't. Actually, the people the people against Putin in the country are saying, you're not going hard enough. You need to put this to an end. And the end they're talking about isn't a peace treaty. But I think the answer is going to be, and Putin is working on this, and so and actually it's time, because the Ukrainians really don't have much. And we are the problem. Once again, the U.S. they're flowing money and helping the Ukrainian Banderites continue their reign of really terror on Ukrainians at this point. They've killed so many and ran so many Ukrainians out of the country. They've destroyed what was Ukraine. But I think the answer is going to be a deal, a peace deal. You got to make a peace deal. We need to do it.
Here it is. Karen, I'm going to end it in 24 hours, that war. It's going to be over.
Yeah,
never again. Vladimir Putin respects me, and had I been president, not sleepy Joe Biden, we would have never been in this war. But people don't want to talk about the fact that Donald Trump armed the Ukrainian Banderite governments. What were the things he gave them? The handheld missiles, the
man pads. Yeah.
What are they called?
Man pads or shoulder launched air.
There's a name for the ones that they gave the Ukrainians. That I gave you those to go after all those Russian tanks. Obama gave you sheets. I gave you, I forgot what he called them. It's almost equivalent to what the United States gave the Mujahideen in Afghanistan to go fight the Russians. Here we are now in Ukraine, and we're giving them the same weaponry. He actually stepped up the firepower given to Ukraine in his first administration. People don't talk about it. So he actually had a part to play in this war, and you hit it right on the nose. We're still funding them. We're still sending them money.
Trump is presiding over the same foreign policy that we have had since communism, since we were fighting the evil Soviet Union. And he's following the same program. He can't think of anything else. This is what he grew up with. The people around him say, oh, it's good because it weakens Russia. It's good that the people in Russia are angry at Putin because he won't go to war. We know Putin is trying to be, he's trying to do the right thing. He cares about Russians, whether they live in Kiev or whether they live in the Donbass or his own Russian Federation. So anyway, it's a problem. We need peace. And actually, the enemy of peace right now has been Donald Trump's military global imperial policy. Yeah. And it's not to say that wasn't Biden's also. Yes, it was. But we're dealing right now with Trump continuing that of previous presidents. It needs to stop.
It's the system. It's the system, not the president. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Drive Time in the Morning with Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski. Colonel Karen, let everybody know where they can find you real quick, what you got going on. I always watch your Tuesday interviews with Judge Knapp. You can catch her there. She's a regular on that show. We used to warm you up on a Monday so you get ready, but now we're getting the meat and potatoes now after you're already warmed up and getting your coffee going. Let people know where they can find you, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
I try to share some of these links and videos on my Substack, KarenKwiatkowski, Substack.com, and that's one place you can find it. But basically, I didn't write this week, so I feel bad. My 15 minutes, I need to exercise some more discipline. That's right.
There you go. We all have that issue. We all think we can do more. There's a bunch of distractions out there. I think you talked earlier on the show about the doom scrolling from that one person. That's a psychological addiction, and it's very easy to just say no to drugs. That doesn't work. No. We have to figure out what's going on, and those things are out there by design. And you're on this show on Wednesdays by design, and we appreciate you coming in. And we'll see you next week. Okay, Karen?
Absolutely. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye.
Thanks a million. Seriously, you made an amazing show
today.
Thank you very much. Had a fun time. Guys, that's it today. As we wrap up the show, let's take a moment to reflect on the importance of diversity of thought and the peace we can cultivate with our neighbors. Sleepy J was talking about it. Our neighbors. In a world that often feels divided, it's our differences that can actually bring us together. Every unique perspective, every story shared enriches our collective experience and fosters understandings. Remember, it's okay to disagree. It's how we handle those disagreements that truly matter. Let's embrace dialogue over debate, compassion over conflict. When we listen to one another, we open the door to meaningful relationships. By engaging with our diverse communities, we can find common ground and build bridges that promote peace. So I encourage you, reach out to someone with a different viewpoint, share a meal, have a conversation, a cup of coffee, or just simply listen. Let's create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding in our neighborhoods and beyond, because sometimes conflict can often bring resolution. Hey, thank you for tuning in today. Remember, together, we can celebrate our diversity and pave the way for a brighter, more peaceful future. Until next time, keep the dialogue flowing and that peace growing. For Sleepy J, Gabrielle Freedom, Fred Edward, Socialist Toker, right? We got him, David, Snorky. If I missed you out there, everybody else in the chat, and all you people who've been coming along every day, you've been getting up with us. We're growing the show little by little, and you guys have been a huge part of it. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for participating. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I do have a drive time on WBAI. Go to WBAI.org at 4 p.m. Eastern. We're following the Katie Halper Show. That's drive time on WBAI today. The New Yorkers, when the New Yorkers hear us on the radio. Thank you for watching. My coffee, it's hitting acid refluxes. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.